To start this off, I'd like to give a bit of context. This happened about 4 years ago. I'm a girl, and at the time this happened, I was 12, going on 13 in just a month or two. The friend I mention in this story was 14 at the time. The friend, Sally, who I was staying with that night, was quite a bit older than me. At least at the time, the 2-year age gap felt big. At 12 years old, I was about to start my second year of middle school, whereas Sally should have been starting her sophomore year of high school. I met her at the beginning of my first year at a new school. She was older than the other kids in our grade and was considered one of the popular kids. I think that's what drew me to her at first. We became friends pretty quickly, and before we knew it, we're spending every single weekend together. Seriously, every single weekend. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. It was your typical Friday night. We carpooled to her family's apartment after school. I've always been a picky eater, so when her family had dinner, I didn't eat with them. I just snacked on the Pop-Tart I'd stowed away in my backpack in case they ordered something I wouldn't eat. Something to note is that her family was pretty religious. I wouldn't go as far as to say they were fanatics, but they didn't allow their kids to watch horror movies or anything rated PG-13 or older. It didn't stem from a desire to protect them from something inappropriate. Sally's mother had an irrational fear that scary movies carried satanic messages. We asked to watch The Purge, and her mom obviously said no. After some negotiating, she agreed to let us watch The Hunger Games instead. After the movie, Sally and I went to hang out in her room. She put on some music, and being the age we were, we gave each other makeovers. By the end of it, we looked much older than just 12 and 14. This part of the night is when things started to feel off. Sally wasn't the most positive influence. Despite being my best friend at the time, she was manipulative and got off on putting me down. She had a habit of talking to men online and lying about her age. That night, Sally showed me some texts between her and a man she'd been talking to. I can't give you an exact recount of them, but they were filled with him trying to convince her to meet up with him, and just the usual stuff you'd expect from a creep online. According to him, he was 19, tall, and blonde with soulful blue eyes. Once I saw the messages, I asked if she had a picture of him. Something didn't sit right with me after seeing the messages. She showed me what he looked like, and he was clearly not 19. This man was at least 40, and looked like he lived in his mom's basement. Then we got a call from him. Sally answered without hesitation. When I heard the voice on the other end of the line, I felt like I was going to be sick. "You're so pretty. Why don't you come meet me?" he asked. Sally said she couldn't because she was spending the night with a friend. That caught his attention, and then he proceeded to try and convince both of us to come meet him. Sally, lacking any common sense, said yes. Thus began her plan for us to sneak out and walk 15 blocks to meet him in a deserted McDonald's parking lot. No way was I going with her. I was raised on stories of what happens to teen girls who meet random men from the internet in person. But after some adamant pleading from Sally, saying she didn't feel safe going alone, I agreed. We took our phones with us for the walk. I had a kitchen knife stuffed in my bra in case something happened, and I needed to defend myself. The route we had to take didn't have many street lamps, and there weren't any houses. Just rows of trees on both sides of us. It was dark, silent, and isolated. When we got to the parking lot, the only car parked nearby was a black, beat-up 2000 Toyota Corolla. The engine was still running, and from what we could tell, there was more than one person inside. The man from the photo got out of the front passenger seat, leaving the door wide open behind him. He started walking toward us. I turned on my phone's flashlight, and it was obvious he was on something. I couldn't tell you what kind of drug it was, but his eyes were so wide, they looked like they were about to pop out of his skull. He was jittery, twitching, and barely able to stand still. I became very aware of how big he was. Maybe 6'2", around 280 pounds. For reference, my friend and I did not look our age, even without makeup. I'm about 5'2", and Sally was probably around 5'6" or 5'7". We were both tiny compared to him. The man reached out and grabbed Sally by the arm. I went for the knife as quickly as I could, and that's when I saw the others getting out of the car. His friends. He invited us to come back to the car. He said he had booze and drugs, but once he saw the knife in my hand and that I was ready to call the police, he let go of Sally. I grabbed her arm and we ran, faster than I'd ever run in my life. We took the long way back to avoid being followed, in case they were watching us. When we got to her apartment, her family was still sound asleep. We locked every door, shut the blinds, and blocked him on everything. There wouldn't be any sleeping that night. We kept peeking through the windows, and to our horror, that same Toyota kept circling the apartment complex. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. I never told my parents, too scared of getting in trouble or being grounded. I'm 16 now, and they still don't know. I still get a little jumpy whenever I see a black Toyota Corolla. As for Sally, her parents never found out either. We agreed that night to never talk about it again. She moved a few weeks later, and we haven't spoken in 3 years. She was mad at me for ruining her night, and our friendship ended not long after that. We had a bad falling out, but looking back on it now, I think it was for the best. So to Sally, thank you for teaching me a very valuable lesson that night, for making me realize some people are best left behind. And to the man and his friends who tried to prey on 2 young girls, let's not ever fucking meet again. My aunt and uncle live in Fort Myers, Florida. Every winter, we visit them for a weekend, just to see them and escape the cold. This has been a long-time tradition, dating back to when they first moved there about 15 years ago. So we'd been doing this almost as long as I could remember. This happened back when I was 12. My cousin Ashley, who was a year older than me, would always be there, of course. The 2 of us would hang out a lot during these visits. She was cool to hang out with, and I related to her a lot. Even though I was a young boy and she was a girl, she'd always be down to do the kind of stuff I'd normally do with my friends at that age. After the family dinner on the first night, we all watched a movie together. After the movie, our parents hung out in the kitchen drinking wine. They wouldn't let Ashley and me go out that late since we were only 12 and 13. But Ashley wanted to go to a nearby canal where locals had apparently reported seeing a 10-foot-long alligator. Basically, we both wanted to go see if we could find the gator. After she convinced me, we snuck out through the back door while our parents were still in the kitchen. On our way to the canal, we stopped at the 7-Eleven down the street to grab some snacks. The cashier looked at us and said, "Be careful out there," in a tone that implied it was way too late for us to be out. The streets were deserted. The part of Fort Myers they live in is on the significantly quieter side. We walked for maybe 10 minutes. The closer we got to the canal Ashley kept talking about, the swampier the sides of the road started to look. Suddenly, Ashley froze in front of me and looked straight ahead. She pointed and said, "What's that guy doing?" I saw right away what she meant. At the far end of the street was the silhouette of a man, just standing completely still on the sidewalk. If he'd been walking, or even looking down at something in his hands, it would have felt normal. But he was just standing there, doing nothing, apparently looking straight ahead. It sent shivers down both our spines. Ashley said this was the only way to get to the canal, unless we cut through people's yards or waded through gross sewage water. So we kept walking, just a little bit slower, more alert. We were about halfway to the man when he suddenly turned around. I don't mean he turned his head. No, he turned his entire body all at once, like a mannequin being spun around. He didn't look to see if we were behind him first. He just turned. We stopped. He was facing us now. There was a weird standoff for a few seconds before he lifted his arm and started waving at us. It wasn't a casual, gentle wave. He was waving his entire arm, almost in slow motion. Then it shifted into a "come here" motion. Ashley and I looked at each other and ran. We sprinted back the way we came, not saying a word, just breathing hard. We got winded pretty quickly and stopped to catch our breath in front of a small yellow house. We sat on the grass for a second, gathering our thoughts. Ashley told me there were a lot of weird people that lived around here, especially in the area we were just walking through. Now I understood why her parents didn't want her out late alone. After a couple minutes, we started walking back to her house. That's when we saw him again. That same man at the end of the street, not moving, just standing there. He was just as still as we seen him the first time. His posture looked unnaturally stiff, arms flat at his sides. But now he was standing directly under a streetlight. We could see his face this time. He looked to be about 40. His hair was slightly slicked back. His nose looked messed up, like it had been broken and never healed right. He was smiling, but not with his teeth. Just a closed mouth smile that didn't reach his eyes. Then he started waving at us again. I still don't know why, but I stood up and waved back at him. As I did, he stopped waving. His smile disappeared. And then he erupted into a full-on sprint toward us. Ashley screamed and took off running. I jumped up off the ground and followed her as fast as I could. I was in pure shock. I think that's why I couldn't get a scream out. That, and I didn't have the breath to spare. We tore through people's yards, hopped over fences, and ran down side streets until we finally made it back to her house. The back door was locked now, so we had no choice but to knock, risking getting caught and getting in trouble. When they answered, we just said we'd run to 7-Eleven to get snacks. Ashley's parents were more upset than mine, but they let us off with just a warning and told us not to go out again that late. That man's face lit up under the streetlight. It still terrifies me to this day, even 10 years later. My sneaking out story started when I was staying at my best friend's house. His mom was really cool and would let us boys spend the weekend there almost every week during our freshman year of high school. Eventually, we abused her kindness and took things a little too far. We got into trouble, and after this particular night, I was never allowed over there again. Most of us were 14 years old. It was me, Jonathan, William, and Miles together that weekend. We were all staying at Jonathan's house. After we were sure Jonathan's mom had gone to sleep, we waited about a half hour before sneaking out, just to make sure she was deep into her sleep. We met up with a few of the older kids from school, 2 sophomores, a junior, and even a 21-year-old who could get us alcohol. Looking back, I have no idea what a 21-year-old was doing hanging out with kids as young as us. But at the time, we didn't care. He was nice, didn't act creepy, and got us the stuff we wanted. Maybe he was just lonely. We wanted to meet up with some girls from school who were having a huge party while the host's parents were out of town. Some of us had to walk because the 21-year-old, whose name was Austin, I think, was the only one with a car. Maybe some of the older guys had cars too, but couldn't sneak them out, I don't know. Either way, my main group of friends decided we wouldn't leave anyone behind. So we walked together to the party. There was a girl I had a huge crush on, and I was excited to see her. I wasn't very experienced with alcohol or weed, but I knew she was, and I wanted to impress her. After a while, I found myself way more messed up than I ever planned. A few too many fireball shots later, and I honestly don't remember what I did that gave her the ick, but apparently, I was acting like a complete dumbass. Those were her words. She completely ignored me after that. I passed out on a couch in the second living room. Luckily, Jonathan woke me up. One of the neighbors had called the police because of a noise complaint, and I woke up to 3 officers standing in the living room. Jonathan and I managed to sneak out the back door and ran all the way home. Miles didn't make it back. He was shot and killed in an altercation with one of the officers. He was one of my best friends. The officer claimed Miles threatened him with a knife, which I know can't be true. He just wouldn't do something like that. The cop was fired not long after. The small city we were from went up in flames, figuratively and almost literally. Miles was a young black boy, and this happened right in the middle of the Black Lives Matter movement. It became a national thing, a racial thing. People argued about whether the cop shot him out of pure hatred or fear, or if he was actually trying to defend himself. We'll probably never know the truth. I wasn't there when it happened. I only know what I've been told. And it's hard, really hard to believe that Miles wouldn't cooperate when a cop pointed a gun at him. I miss him so much. I've barely heard the officer's side of the story, and I really don't care about hearing his side of the story, to be honest. All I know is that he claimed self-defense. But the fact that he got fired, that says something about what really happened. That's all I can say. This happened a little while back, when I was 15. I just discovered the rebellious thrill of sneaking out. This was probably my 4th or 5th time doing it, and one night, I decided to meet up with my boyfriend. Well, at the time, we weren't officially together, but we liked each other, and you know how that goes. When you're with someone you like, you tend to stop paying attention to what's happening around you. The night started out fine, and we were having a good time. I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, because we'd gotten pretty high, but I do remember what happened. We met up and went to this elementary school that had a decent-sized field with some hills and trees toward the back. It's important to explain the layout so you can understand how things went down. From where we were sitting, we had a clear view of the school and its basketball court. The school was lit by side lights, so we could easily see if anyone walked by, but it wasn't exactly easy for people to see us. To our left, there was a narrow paved path that led into a townhouse complex. So, we're sitting at the edge of the field, looking at the stars and talking about random stuff, when we start to hear the crunch of gravel coming from the school grounds. Since we were high and already a little paranoid, we immediately turned our attention to the lit-up basketball court. We watched as this guy walked by, pushing his bike. He didn't seem to notice us at first. After he passed, we pretty much forgot about it and went back to laughing and talking, and being loud teenagers. Maybe 10 minutes later, we heard that same gravel crunch again. We went quiet and looked toward the school. It was the same bike guy, but this time, instead of walking by, he stopped at the edge of the field and just stood there, staring out across it, almost like he was scanning the area, looking for someone. Now we were genuinely creeped out. We started packing up our stuff, not saying much. And then we saw him step off the pavement and begin walking onto the field, directly toward us. Once he left the glow of the school lights, it got much harder to see him. Just a vague shape moving in the darkness. That was our cue to leave. The only way out, without being totally exposed, was through the path into the townhouse complex, so that's where we headed. We tried our best to stay quiet as we slipped into the pitch-black walkway. Keep in mind, we were very tipsy, so everything felt extra intense. I kept checking over my shoulder, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously off. Like something bad was about to happen. Eventually, we made it through the dark path and into the decently lit complex. We relaxed a little, just enough to start trying to find the main exit out. It was the closest way besides going back the way we came, which wasn't an option. We were walking through the complex, starting to talk again, when we turned the final corner, and there he was. That same fucking guy, with his bike, standing right at the exit. We froze. Then maybe 2 seconds passed. Then he dropped his bike and sprinted straight at us. Fast. Like, unnaturally fast. With the little bit of breath I had left, I said, "Oh fuck," before my boyfriend and I took off. We ran blindly, turning corners, darting down back alleys, never once looking behind us. My legs were on fire, but adrenaline kept me moving. Eventually, we ducked behind some bushes and stopped to catch our breath. He was gone. No sound, no movement, no sign of anyone. We waited there for about 20 minutes, hearts pounding, trying to calm down. By then, we'd pretty much sobered up. We figured it was safe to try again. So we slowly made our way back toward the entrance. The bike was gone. Just gone. We looked at each other, both thinking the same thing. He wasn't in the complex anymore, but that didn't make us feel any better. Because now we had no idea where he was, or if he was watching us from somewhere else. Luckily, we both made it home safe that night. But I'll never forget that moment, standing there, seeing him block our only way out, and realizing he'd been following us the whole time. By far, one of the creepiest experiences I've ever had.